There comes a moment in every woman's life when she realizes that peace is not something she waits for, it's something she builds. And emotional control isn't about shutting your feelings down, it's about learning how to stand strong when the world tries to shake you. Today, I want to show you how to protect your energy, how to stop reacting to every push and pull, and how to become the woman who sets the tone in every room she walks into, not by force, but by unshakable emotional control. There is a kind of strength that doesn't need to be loud, fast, or aggressive. A strength that shows up in the quietest moment, the moment you choose not to react right away. Most people live in a constant loop of reacting. Someone says something disrespectful, and they fire back. Someone disappoints them, and they explode. Someone tries to control them, and they rush to defend themselves. But real emotional control, the kind that makes you unshakable, begins with one simple skill: the pause. The pause is not weakness. It's not silence. It's not surrender. It is the split-second decision to stay in control of yourself when everything around you is trying to pull you out of character. It's the inner voice that says, "I will respond when my mind is clear, not when my emotions are loud." A woman who knows how to pause before reacting becomes a woman who can handle anything: arguments, disrespect, pressure, manipulation, chaos. Because she's not driven by impulse, she's driven by intention. When someone tries to provoke you, what they are really looking for is access to your power. They want your attention, your reaction, your energy. They want to see if they can pull you into their storm. The pause denies them that access. It creates a space where you get to observe, not absorb. You see what they're doing. You understand the game. And instead of being dragged into emotional chaos, you stay anchored in your own strength. That one breath, that one moment of silence is often the difference between regret and clarity. When you react instantly, you speak from emotion, and emotion is temporary. But when you pause, you give your mind a chance to catch up. You give yourself room to ask the right questions. Is this worth my energy? What do I gain by responding? Am I reacting from strength or from hurt? Those questions shift your entire perspective. They pull you out of the emotional moment and put you back into control. People will always test your emotional limits. Some do it out of habit. Some do it because they know exactly where your buttons are, but they only succeed if you respond without thinking. The pause takes that weapon out of their hands. Suddenly, they can't predict you anymore. They can't manipulate you. They can't pull you to arguments, drama, or emotional traps. You become unpredictable, and that makes you powerful. The pause also protects your peace. When you react emotionally, you end up carrying the weight long after the moment has passed. You replay the conversation. You overthink your words. You question your decisions. But when you pause, your response becomes cleaner, calmer, more calculated. You say only what needs to be said. You do only what supports your self-respect. You move with purpose, not pressure. And because of that, you walk away lighter, clearer, stronger. A woman with emotional control is not the woman who never feels anything. She feels deeply. But she masters the art of not letting her emotions dictate her actions. She knows that reacting instantly might feel satisfying for a moment, but staying in control feels powerful for a lifetime. She learns that calm is not a natural state, it is a trained skill. And every time she pauses, she strengthens that skill. The pause also gives you the upper hand in communication. People expect quick reactions. They expect you to match their tone. They expect you to meet their chaos with more chaos. But when you pause, you break their rhythm. You slow the moment down. You take back control of the pace. And often the other person becomes more aware of their own behavior simply because you didn't mirror it. Your calm becomes a mirror that exposes their chaos. In relationships, the pause can save you from unnecessary fights. A lot of arguments happen because people respond from emotion instead of understanding. When you pause, you choose curiosity over confrontation. You give yourself space to understand what's really happening beneath the surface. It keeps you from saying things you don't mean, from escalating conflicts that don't matter, from damaging connections you actually care about. The pause protects not only your peace, but your relationships. In moments of disrespect, the pause gives you clarity. Not every situation deserves your reaction. Not every person deserves your explanation. Not every insult deserves your attention. When someone crosses a line, your pause gives you the chance to choose your boundary instead of choosing a fight. And boundaries spoken calmly are often the most powerful because they show that you do not need anger to defend yourself. In stressful situations, the pause reminds you that pressure is not a command. Life will throw deadlines, responsibilities, and unexpected challenges your way. If you react instantly, you act out of fear. But when you pause, you act from stability. You make wiser choices. You find solutions faster. You separate what is urgent from what is important. The pause turns pressure into direction instead of panic. And the beautiful thing about the pause is that anyone can learn it. You don't need special skills. You don't need years of training. You need awareness. You need to notice the moment your emotions start rising. The tight chest, the fast heartbeat, the quick thoughts. That is your signal. That is your moment to breathe. That is the exact second where your power begins. Practicing the pause doesn't mean you stay silent forever. It means you respond from your highest self, not your hurt self. It means you act in a way that protects your dignity. It means you show the world that your emotions may rise, but they do not rule you. And with time, the pause becomes natural. It becomes instinct. It becomes your automatic response to anything that tries to shake you. A woman who masters the pause becomes a woman people respect, not because she is harsh, not because she is cold, but because she moves with control, she speaks with intention, she stands in her power without raising her voice. Her energy becomes steady, calm, and impossible to manipulate. She becomes the one who brings stability into chaos, the one who cannot be provoked, the one who holds her ground no matter what. And the world pays attention to a woman like that. The world moves differently around a woman like that because her emotional control isn't loud, but it is unmistakable. And it all begins with something so small, so simple, and so incredibly powerful to pause. There will always be people who push your buttons, sometimes intentionally, sometimes out of their own emotional immaturity. What matters is not whether people try to trigger you. What matters is whether they succeed. And the truth is, staying grounded is not about avoiding difficult people. It's about becoming the kind of woman who cannot be emotionally hijacked by anyone. When you learn to stay grounded, you stop being reaction material. You stop being someone's emotional playground. You stop being pulled into drama, manipulation, guilt, or pressure. You become centered, steady, and emotionally untouchable. Staying grounded starts with awareness. Most people don't even notice when they're being triggered. Something is said, and instantly their mind shifts, their breathing changes, their energy spikes, their emotions take over before they even realize what happened. But a grounded woman feels that moment. She notices the shift. She catches that inner reaction before it explodes outward. That awareness alone is powerful because you cannot control what you do not see. The moment you become conscious of the trigger, you take your power back. Triggers work because they hit something tender inside you. An old wound, an insecurity, a fear, a belief about yourself. And most people try to fight triggers by fighting the other person. But staying grounded means understanding that the real battle is inside you, not outside. The other person is just pressing a button that already exists within you. So instead of reacting to them, you center yourself, you breathe, you remind yourself that the feeling is old, but the moment is new. You remind yourself that your emotions are information, not commands. That simple shift keeps you anchored. People who try to trigger you want a reaction. They want to see you lose control. They want you confused, emotional, off balance, or defensive. But when you stay grounded, you create emotional friction for them. They push and nothing moves. They provoke and nothing shakes. That confuses them. It throws them off because they expected chaos, and instead they're met with calm. Calm is a power move, not because it's quiet, but because it shows that their influence over you is non-existent. One of the strongest ways to stay grounded is by mastering your tone. Your tone can escalate or diffuse any moment. When someone is trying to provoke you, lowering your tone instead of raising it shifts the energy instantly. You're not matching their intensity. You're not feeding their chaos. You're signaling control, not just to them, but to yourself. A calm tone is a grounding mechanism. It slows your heartbeat. It steadies your breathing. It sends your mind the message, we are safe. We are in control. Another grounding skill is maintaining your physical posture. People underestimate how much the body affects the mind. When you lean forward, clench your jaw, or cross your arms, your body shifts into defense mode. But when you relax your shoulders, uncross your arms, plant your feet firmly, and breathe from your diaphragm, your nervous system calms. That physical grounding creates mental grounding. You become less reactive because your body is signaling stability, not chaos. A grounded woman also understands emotional bait. Emotional bait is anything someone says or does to pull you into their emotional territory. It can sound like an insult, a guilt trip, a sarcastic comment, a passive-aggressive remark, or a challenge designed to get a rise out of you. The ungrounded person takes the bait instantly, but the grounded woman sees it for what it is, a trap. And the moment you learn to recognize bait, you stop giving people the satisfaction of catching you in it. The key is not to defend yourself every time someone misjudges you, not to correct every misunderstanding, not to justify every decision. Staying grounded means choosing silence or simple response like I see or noted when someone is clearly fishing for a reaction. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you immune. Because the strongest form of emotional control is refusing to let someone pull you into a fight you don't need to be in. Another grounding technique is detachment from outcome. When you are too emotionally invested in how someone responds to you, you become easier to trigger. You want them to understand you, approve you, agree with you, validate you. But the moment your worth depends on someone else's reaction, you lose control. Grounded women detach. They do not speak to be liked. They do not set boundaries to be approved. They do not express themselves to win a reaction. They act from alignment, not expectation. That detachment keeps your emotions stable because your center is within you, not in someone else's response. Staying grounded also involves understanding that other people's emotional storms are not your responsibility. Someone else's anger, frustration, insecurity, or jealousy does not require you to mirror it. You can observe someone's emotional explosion without being pulled into it. Just like you can watch a storm through the window without stepping outside. When you remember their emotions belong to them, not me, you stay grounded even when they're losing control. Another aspect of grounding is emotional neutrality. Emotional neutrality doesn't mean you don't care. It means you don't absorb. When someone is trying to trigger you, you shift into observation mode instead of reaction mode. You watch their behavior like a psychologist, not a participant. You listen without personalizing. You respond without merging your emotions with theirs. This keeps your mind clear and your energy unshaken. Emotional neutrality is strength in silence. A grounded woman also knows how to validate herself in moments of emotional attack. When someone tries to belittle you, criticize you unfairly, or make you doubt yourself, grounding means reminding yourself mentally, I know who I am. Their words don't define me. That internal self-talk is like putting emotional armor on. You stop seeking validation in the heat of the moment because you already have it within you. Ultimately, staying grounded is about mastering your internal world. You cannot control what others say. You cannot control how they behave. You cannot control their intentions, their emotionality, or their attempts to push your buttons. But you can control your inner stability. And once you control that, no one can pull you into emotional chaos without your permission. A grounded woman becomes a mystery to people who rely on triggering others. They cannot figure her out. They cannot get inside her head. They cannot shake her foundation. And that is when you become truly powerful. Not because you fight harder, yell louder, or defend stronger, but because you remain steady when others fall apart. That steadiness is the mark of a woman who cannot be manipulated, provoked, or controlled. That steadiness is what makes you unshakable. Peace is not something life hands you. Peace is something you protect, guard, and choose every single day. And one of the most powerful lessons a woman can learn is this: not everything deserves your energy. Not every comment, not every person, not every situation, not every battle. Emotional control becomes effortless when you master the art of selective energy, knowing what to give your attention to and what to walk past without a second thought. Most people drain themselves not because life is too hard, but because they are too available. They give their energy to every problem, every argument, every misunderstanding, every person who wants a reaction. But your energy is your currency. It's what fuels your peace, your clarity, your confidence, your goals. And if you spend it on the wrong things, you end up bankrupt mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Reclaiming your peace begins with reclaiming your energy. You do this by asking one simple question: is this worth my emotional investment? When you pause long enough to ask this, you instantly elevate yourself above the situation. You step out of emotional impulse and into rational clarity. You see the difference between what matters long-term and what only exists to disturb your peace in the moment. There are people who thrive on emotional chaos. They want to pull you into their storms because it distracts them from dealing with their own. They want your reaction because it makes them feel powerful. They want to see you frustrated because it validates their own instability. When you choose not to give your energy to that, you break the cycle. You deny them the control they're seeking. Reclaiming your peace means understanding that some situations are not your responsibility to fix. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you. Some arguments have no resolution. Some comments are designed to provoke, not communicate, and some relationships only survive when you keep sacrificing your peace. When you see this clearly, you stop pouring energy into empty spaces. Choosing where your energy goes is also about boundaries, not the kind you shout, but the kind you live. When someone tries to pull you into drama, your boundary is your silence. When someone brings negativity, your boundary is your distance. When someone repeatedly disrespects you, your boundary is your absence. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about controlling your access to chaos. Most women lose peace because they believe they must respond to everything. They think silence means weakness. But silence is often the strongest response you can give. Silence says, I see what you're doing, and I refuse to play. Silence says, this does not deserve my energy. Silence says, your chaos will not disturb my clarity. Silence protects what emotional reactions often destroy. Another part of choosing what deserves your energy is learning that not everyone deserves an explanation. You don't need to justify why you walked away. You don't need to explain why you chose peace. You don't need to argue with someone committed to misunderstanding you. When you stop explaining yourself to the wrong people, you save enormous emotional energy. You stop giving people a voice in decisions that were never theirs to influence. Reclaiming your peace also means choosing your battles with intentionality. Some conflicts are necessary. They protect your boundaries, your dignity, your safety. But many conflicts are simply ego distractions. You feel the urge to respond because you want to be right, not because it's necessary. You want to win the moment, even if you lose your peace in the process. But when you learn to ask, does this fight matter to my future? You walk away from most battles without guilt. A major part of emotional control is knowing that anger is expensive. Anxiety is expensive. Overthinking is expensive. They drain your emotional account quickly. But calm is a discount. Clarity is a discount. Distance is a discount. Restraint is a discount. When you choose peace, you invest in your strength instead of spending it recklessly. Not everything deserves your emotional reaction because your reaction gives power. When you react to someone's negativity, you feed it. When you react to someone's provocation, you validate it. When you react to someone's disrespect, you deepen the wound. But when you choose not to respond, not to engage, not to invest, the situation starves. It loses its ability to affect you. You win by withdrawing your energy, not by pouring more into the fire. Reclaiming your peace also requires internal discipline. You cannot control every situation, but you can control your focus. When you focus on what's wrong, what hurts, what went bad, you drain yourself. When you focus on what you can control, your inner calm, your decisions, your direction, you strengthen yourself. Peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of perspective. Choosing what deserves your energy also means choosing yourself. Choosing your mental health over drama. Choosing your self-respect over approval. Choosing your future over temporary emotions. When you choose yourself, chaos loses its power. You stop sacrificing your emotional health to save relationships that only hurt you. You stop staying in spaces that exhaust you. You stop giving energy to people who take but never give. Reclaiming your peace also means recognizing that some people only understand boundaries when you enforce them with action, not words. When you stop responding, when you stop engaging, when you stop explaining, when you stop allowing access, your energy speaks louder than any speech you could give. You teach people how to treat you by how you use your energy. The moment you stop giving emotional energy to everything that disturbs you, you regain emotional strength. You become harder to trigger, harder to manipulate, harder to confuse, harder to overwhelm. You stop being available to the wrong people in the wrong situations. You become intentional with every emotional breath you take. And that's when peace becomes your default, not your struggle. Because peace comes from mastering your energy. And your energy is sacred, limited, and powerful. When you give it wisely, you gain control. When you give it freely, you lose yourself. But when you choose where it goes deliberately, confidently, and apologetically, you become a woman who cannot be shaken, drained, or controlled by anyone. That is how you reclaim your peace, by choosing what and who deserves your energy.